The Velthari were a proud species. They stood tall on four powerful legs, their silver fur catching the pale light of their dying sun. For 10,000 years, they had ruled the Keth system. Their temples reached toward the sky. Their ships crossed the stars. Their warriors had never known defeat. But nothing mattered more to them than the ceremony of bones. Every generation, when the cubs reached their fifth cycle, the elders would lead them deep into the sacred caves. There, beneath mountains of black stone, lay the bones of their ancestors, great warriors, wise leaders, hunters who had fed entire cities. The cubs would kneel before these bones and feel the weight of their bloodline. They would understand who they were and what they must become. Elder Vreth had performed this ceremony 63 times. She knew every step, every word, every moment of silence. She had watched thousands of cubs bow their heads and accept their destiny. This year would be different. This year, a human was watching. His name was Marcus Chen. He was a cultural observer from Earth, permitted to witness Velthari traditions as part of the Galactic Exchange Program. He sat quietly at the back of the cave entrance, his small frame almost invisible among the massive Velthari bodies. He had promised not to interfere. He had promised only to watch. The cubs gathered at the cave mouth, 12 of them, small and curious, their silver fur still soft, their eyes still bright with wonder. They had not yet learned the serious expressions of their elders. They still laughed. They still played. They still asked questions that had no answers. Elder Vreth raised her clawed hand. Silence fell. "Today," she spoke, her voice echoing through the ancient stone, "you will meet your ancestors. You will see the bones of those who came before. You will understand that you are not individuals. You are links in a chain. You exist to serve those who died and those who will come after." The cubs lowered their heads. This was expected. This was tradition. Vreth led them forward into the darkness. The caves were cold. Water dripped from somewhere far above. The only light came from glowing crystals that the Velthari had placed along the walls thousands of years ago. The path wound deeper and deeper into the earth. Marcus followed at a respectful distance. His footsteps were quiet compared to the heavy thuds of Velthari paws. He noticed how the cubs walked. Some were eager, pushing ahead. Some were nervous, staying close to each other. One small cub, the smallest of the group, kept looking back. Her name was Kira. She was the runt of her family group. Too small, too weak, too full of questions. The elders worried about her. She did not seem to understand her place. Now her eyes found Marcus in the shadows. She did not look away. There was something in her gaze that Marcus recognized. Curiosity. The same curiosity that had driven humans to cross oceans and climb mountains and reach for distant stars. He gave her a small smile. She blinked, then turned back to follow the others. The caves opened into a vast chamber. The cubs gasped. Even Marcus felt his breath catch. Bones. Thousands upon thousands of bones. They rose in great piles arranged by family and rank. Skulls stared with empty eyes. Ribs curved like the frames of ancient ships. Leg bones stood planted in the ground like forests of the dead. The crystal light made everything glow with a pale, ghostly fire. Elder Vreth spread her arms wide. "Behold," she said, "your ancestors, the greatest of our kind. Here lies Thrak the Conqueror, who united 7 worlds. Here lies Vena the Wise, who wrote our laws. Here lies Goreth the Hunter, who fed our people through the Great Famine." She pointed to each pile of bones as she spoke. The cubs stared. Some trembled. Some wept silent tears. "You will now approach," Vreth continued. "You will kneel before the bones of your own bloodline. You will speak the words of acceptance. You will become one with the chain." One by one, the cubs walked forward. They found the bones of their families. They knelt. They pressed their small foreheads to the cold stone floor. Little Kira did not move. Vreth noticed. Her eyes narrowed. "Kira," she said sharply, "go to your ancestors. The bones of House Vel wait for you." Kira looked at the pile, the bones of her bloodline. Warriors and hunters, strong ones, powerful ones. None of them had been small. None of them had been weak. None of them had been like her. She took one step forward. Then she stopped. "I do not feel them," she said quietly. The other cubs gasped. Such words were not spoken. Not here. Not now. Vreth's fur bristled. "What did you say?" "The bones are cold," Kira said. "They do not speak to me. They do not see me. They are just bones." "They are your ancestors," Vreth roared. "They are your blood. They are everything you must become." "But they are gone," Kira said simply. "They cannot teach me. They cannot answer my questions. They cannot tell me stories or show me the stars or explain why the sky changes color at sunset." Vreth moved toward her, fury in her eyes. "You will kneel. You will accept your place. This is not a choice." Kira backed away. Her small legs trembled, but she did not kneel. And then she did something that would be spoken of for generations. She turned around. She walked past the bones of 10,000 ancestors. She walked through the sacred chamber where no cub had ever turned their back. She walked until she reached the shadows at the far end of the cave. And she sat down beside the human. Marcus felt his heart stop. Every Velthari eye was on them. Vreth's claws scraped against stone. The tension was thick enough to choke on. "What are you doing?" Marcus whispered. "You are warm," Kira said simply, "and alive. You have stories in your eyes. I can see them." The other cubs were watching now. They had stopped kneeling. They had stopped pressing their heads to the cold floor. They were watching little Kira sit beside the strange alien creature. "Tell me a story," Kira said to Marcus. "A real story. Not about bones. About life." Marcus looked at Elder Vreth. Her face was stone. Her eyes were fire. But she said nothing. Perhaps she was too shocked to speak. Perhaps she wanted to see what would happen. Marcus swallowed. Then he did what humans have always done in moments of darkness and fear. He began to tell a story. "On my world," he said, "there was once a small girl named Ada. She was different from everyone else. People said she thought too much. They said she asked too many questions. They said she would never fit in." Kira leaned closer. Her silver fur brushed against his arm. But Ada did not care what they said. She kept asking questions. She kept looking at the stars. And one day, she discovered something amazing. She found a new way to talk to machines, a language of numbers and logic. She called it a program. "What happened to her?" Kira asked. "She changed everything," Marcus said. "Because of her questions, we learned to build thinking machines. Because she did not fit in, she found a new path. Because she was different, she made us greater." Another cub had moved closer. Then another. Soon, 5 cubs were gathered around Marcus, their eyes wide, their ears raised. "Tell us another," one of them said. Marcus looked at Vreth. She had not moved, but something in her expression had shifted. Not acceptance. Not yet, but something like wonder. He told them about Yuri, who first flew beyond the sky. He told them about Marie, who caught invisible fire in her hands and used it to heal the sick. He told them about Neil and Buzz, who walked on their moon and planted a flag not for conquest, but for wonder. He told them about Malala, who spoke words so powerful that bullets could not silence them. The cubs listened. They laughed at the funny parts. They gasped at the dangerous parts. They cried at the sad parts. They were not kneeling before cold bones. They were alive. They were learning. They were feeling. By the end, all 12 cubs sat around Marcus Chen. Even the ones who had been eager to kneel. even the ones who had been crying. They had forgotten the bones. They had forgotten tradition. They had found something older than tradition. Story, connection, life. Elder Vreth finally approached. Her steps were slow. Her eyes were unreadable. "What have you done?" she asked Marcus. "I told them stories," he said simply. "You have broken our ceremony. You have turned our cubs from their ancestors." Marcus stood. He was small compared to Vreth. His body was soft. His claws were dull nails. His teeth could not tear flesh. But he looked her in the eye without fear. "Your ancestors are important," he said. "Honor them. Remember them. But do not make your children worship death when they are so full of life." He gestured to the cubs gathered around him. "Look at them. They are not dishonoring your past. They are embracing their future. They want to learn, to grow, to become something new." "Is that not what your ancestors would have wanted?" Vreth was silent for a long moment. The crystals flickered. The bones watched with empty eyes. Then little Kira stood up. She walked to Elder Vreth and looked up at her with those bright, curious eyes. "I love our ancestors," Kira said, "but I want to make my own bones. I want to do things so great that someday cubs will tell stories about me. Not because I knelt, but because I stood." Vreth stared at her. This small, weak, question-filled cub. This runt who would not kneel. And slowly Elder Vreth did something she had never done in 63 ceremonies. She smiled. "Perhaps," she said quietly, "we have been teaching the wrong lesson." She turned to the other elders who had watched everything in stunned silence. "Next year," Vreth announced, "the ceremony will be different. We will bring the cubs to the bones, yes, but then we will bring them to the humans. We will teach them death and life. We will show them the chain and the stars. We will give them roots and wings." The cubs cheered. They danced around Marcus, their silver fur catching the crystal light like living stars. And somewhere in the chamber, the bones of 10,000 ancestors seemed to watch with something like approval. Because the dead do not want to be worshipped. They want to be surpassed. They want their children to climb higher, reach farther, become greater. The Velthari had forgotten this truth. A human had reminded them. When they left the caves that day, Kira walked beside Marcus. Her small paw held his hand. "Will you tell me more stories?" she asked. "Always," he said. And in that moment, two species became something more than neighbors in the galaxy. They became family, bound not by blood or bone, but by the oldest magic in the universe, the simple act of sitting together in the dark and sharing a story.